Hey folks, Cool18 here, and welcome to Let's Try Rise of Venice. Rise of Venice is the latest franchise to come out of the Patrician and Port Royal series of games. They are naval trading games. They're economy games, a little bit of political kind of games. If you're looking for something super action-oriented, this is not really the game for you. But if you want something about competing with other people to make as much money as possible in cool historical periods, that whole franchise is what you want to do. Patrician, of course, is based on the sort of northern part of Europe as the Hanseatic League, Port Royal is in the Caribbean, and Rise of Venice is in, Venice and the Mediterranean at large. So there is multiplayer available in this game. There is a proper sort of campaign that guides you through the gameplay, basically by presenting you missions that will step you through how to actually run your empire. And then there's also a free play mode as well, which ignores all the sort of campaigny mission bugging you kind of stuff. The gameplay is basically the same as well. There are also going to be the scoreboard matches with different sort of victory conditions and goals, which are going to be scored and compared on the homepage scoreboard over here. So you can compare how you've done. Hulk Hogan, look at that. Hulk Hogan. Hugin. Funny. All right. Anyway, you can compare your progress with your friends, and it's kind of interesting to have that kind of content. And as mentioned, there is the multiplayer modes as well. So let's jump into the game and show you what it is. We're going to go into the free play version, so just so that it doesn't harass me. You get to choose your portrait, your name, and your family crest. And in free play mode, you get to adjust some of these settings based on what you want to do. Let's go ahead and increase our starting capital just so that I can give you guys a little bit more example of what's going on. This is just going to be a short little demonstration of the gameplay, not a let's play or anything like that. So here is the map of our world. Oh, and I keep forgetting you can't actually drag around with the mouse, which strikes me as slightly odd. But it is the inner sea of the Mediterranean, going all the way. I'm not sure what city is over here. Now, what's interesting about this game is we don't start off knowing all of the ports. You actually have to sail around to discover a few. For example, Athens over here. And you can see it on the map here, so you know that you can send a ship there. But until you actually do, you're not going to know what kind of goods you can trade and start negotiating with the politics. So let's little bit of France over here I think we can possibly port into. I can't tell if there's a port, though. Oh, perhaps there's not. Maybe Genoa is as far west as we can go. There's Tunis down here, a few other ports in North Africa, and of course trading with the Muslim states was definitely a big thing that Venice did for a long time. And sometimes they had a hard time explaining those sorts of dealing with the other sort of Catholic states at the time, and usually their excuse for doing it is, oh, when we're trading with the Muslims, we're secretly doing it to bring back remains of Christian saints back to, proper Christian territory and things. Very, very political and sneaky. There's Constantinople over here, and I'm not sure what the furthest east port is off the top of my head. I can't remember what this and this is. So, but we'll go around, we'll explore at sea. So this is the world map. There is one major sort of competitor in the game, and that is Genoa. That is the other great merchant republic that you are going to be competing with head to head. Some of the port towns are going to be loyal to Venice, some are going to be loyal to Genoa, and some may be a little bit more neutral. Now, you also have to personally get the ability to trade in some of these ports. So let's zoom in on Venice, and unlike previous games in this series, there is only the one map mode here. There's no ability to, normally you sort of be restricted to kind of this view, and then you click on the city and then it would switch to just showing you the city. Here you can zoom all the way in and you just get the one view. On the other hand, some of the kind of building modes in the previous games are a little bit gone, like the ability to individually place buildings. Personally, I don't think I'm going to miss it. Most of the other gameplay features are still there. So if we click on the Venice name tag over here, we get a pop-up for all the actions that we can actually take in Venice. The majority of what you're going to do, of course, is going to be trading. You can trade a few different modes. Ooh, if I actually select my convoy, I have a couple of convoys sitting around here. There we go, convoy at anchor. If I have the convoy selected and then I click trade, or I just right-click on the city itself, either way, it'll bring me to the same screen. Now I'm trading between the city and my ship. I can also store between my warehouse on my ship or the city and my warehouse. You do start off with a warehouse in Venice. You can expand your holdings in other towns to, once you get your reputation there high enough, you can buy warehouses and establish other types of businesses. So if I look at the trading screen here between the city and my ship, I can see that Venice produces fruit, produces oil, produces salt. They also produce cloth and glass, but I don't have access to these goods yet. Actually, I'm starting off with access to more goods than you would at the start of the normal campaign, just because I sort of started off with more resources and just further developed into the game. The colored bars here represent the availability of the good currently, how well supplied the city is. So I can buy some of the fruit, for example, here, and you can see it's 60 gold, I suppose, per ton or per unit of fruit. So if I go over to the right, you'll see that the price will go up. As I keep buying more and more and more, the price of the good goes up, and it starts to go up quite dramatically once the city gets low on resources. Usually I try to restrict myself to usually I stop once they get down to 1 bar of supply. If I just sat around and let the game play for a little while, they would actually end up with more fruit kicking around. There we go. I can buy oil for a little while before it drops 1 bar. You can see the price is staying static at 60. And there you go. As soon as it drops to 1 bar, it goes up ever so slightly. So we'll do that. We'll see what we can do for salt. Can't buy much salt without it going there. That's because the game just started. It is, here's your speed over here. It does pause when you're in a city view. You can see it's paused. We can toggle the speed. We can slow it down to 0, or we can slow it down to 0.1% of normal, or rather, I guess that's 10% of normal. Normal speed, and you can crank it up to ×5. But what's very handy, I usually just leave the game at ×1. If you hit space, it'll go to ×10. So normally, and let's take this little convoy of ships here that's loaded with oil. We're going to send them to Zara, although Zara's currently on fire. Maybe we'll go to, maybe we'll go to Ragusa instead. So I've got my ship selected. I can right-click to send it anywhere. Very handy to just send it directly to a port. And then I usually just hold space while I wait for my ships to arrive anywhere. You can tell based on these counters if you've got ships that are anchored. So yeah, if I have anything anchored, usually I will go and I will deal with those anchored ships. Let's send this guy all the way to this eastern city here because I feel shame that I can't remember what it is. There we go. Oh yeah, I can't actually click on the port because I haven't discovered it. And then yeah, normally I would just wait until 1 convoy is at anchor and just hold down the space while I wait for that. So you know, it's not a fast-paced game, but it's actually got a half-decent pace to it. Anyway, so I've got my ship here. We're gonna go check out Ragusa. Now Ragusa is not supplied with oil at all. They have 4 red bars. And the price here, you remember we were paying about 60 gold per ton for the oil. We can sell it for 100 gold per ton by going to the left, so I will do that. And then once they start to get supplied, the price they will offer me for the next ton will keep dropping and dropping and dropping. So I can decide where to stop. Here, I'd actually be selling it at a loss, so that's no good. Maybe I'll sell it all the way down to 79. Like so. Now, because I supplied Ragusa with goods that they actually have a high demand for, my reputation here increased. And you can see my reputation here. I'm only 3% popular, but that will continue to increase as I bring in goods that they want, or if I buy stuff that they have a lot of. Or maybe if they're oversupplied. I'm sure that used to be a thing in previous games. I may be wrong, and it may only be when you deliver goods that they need. We'll definitely be buying hemp, because I'm sure a lot of people are going to demand that. And that's all we can pick up sort of reasonably in Ragusa right now. So we're going to keep going. We'll stop in Durazzo and see what's going on there. Again, I have no ships at anchor right now, so I will just hold space, let time pass. And I don't know if you can hear it, but it does give you a little sort of ding-ding bell sound whenever a ship docks, so you get a little cue to not miss any of that. So here we can, I always try to sell first to empty my hold. There we go. They want oil as well, so we'll sell as much as we can there. And that's it. They also produce hemp, so we'll buy some of the hemp. Ooh, we can buy quite a bit here before it drops down in supply state. They do produce a little fruit and some bricks, although not a whole lot of that kicking around right now. And oh, there's a rainbow. How nice. So let's go and see if we can't sell these goods a little further away. Let's go all the way to Tunis. And then what we'll do after that, we'll talk about some of the politics, development, and other things we can do in the city. I guess we'll go to Tunis, and then we will sell our goods there, and then go back to Venice, and then we'll play the political game. There we go. So in Tunis... I cannot trade in Tunis right now. I have to buy a license. So the licenses, I was going to say, cost, 2,000 gold plus or minus 500 is what it seems to be. Unless it's a Genoan city, in which case you'd first have to bribe someone, and that'll be more like 10 to 15,000 gold, and then buy your license after that. But Tunis is unaligned, so we can just purchase that, and that's fine. They want some bricks, so we'll sell them a bunch of bricks. They want hemp. Well, there you go. Have fun with that, guys. And what do they sell? They sell cotton. All right, we'll buy some cotton. They also sell pottery. Pottery sounds like a good idea. Or rather, they produce. They sell lots of things. Oh, no, I overbought. I wasn't paying attention. I think I slipped or something. Reputation decreased in Tunis because I actually caused them to lose like to run out of a good, which is not good. Like the city gets cranky when you do that sort of thing. So don't let your hand slip. All right, so we've done that. My reputation is 30% in Tunis, actually, which isn't bad. Let's send these guys all the way to Venice, and then, yeah, we'll talk about a few other things. Now, at the start of the game, generally speaking, normally you would just have the one convoy. I actually have two because I started with, the more advanced start, as discussed. Normally you would just have one, and it's perfectly fine to go and do this sort of manual shopping. Also, then you can really sort of min-max exactly what you're buying and selling and try to, optimize all that. But very soon you're going to want to create some automated trade routes, and we're going to talk about that soon enough. So back in Venice, we can sell them pottery. I'm going to go to here. And we can sell a little cotton. Oh, we can sell all our cotton. That's actually quite nice. And that's good. So let's take a look at what else we can do in the city of Venice. Let's start with the bottom left, Arsenal. Arsenal is where you can buy ships. You can buy ships that are currently already constructed, and you get one instantly. Or you can order one specifically to become constructed, and then you get to choose your type. You'd have to wait. It takes a while. This is, wow, only 10 days. That's actually not that bad. It's only a sloop, though, which is not particularly big. Brig, sloop, galleass and all that. Some haul more cargo, so the cargo space you can see right here. So 200 to 400. Some have more cannons than others. Galleass is 20. So is the Dow. Doe? I don't know which way. But what's interesting is the galleass is 9,000 gold cheaper than the Doe. Number of sailors makes a big difference when you do bordering action and so on and so forth. Combat is not a big part of the game. It does exist, and you can sort of manually go there. You're just basically turning into each other to try to get firing arcs to go and blast each other. It's very, very simplified. And then you can also sort of ram into each other and do a boarding action. And it's more or less handled automatically. I believe you can also set the combat to be totally automated if that's just not your thing. And it's not really my thing. When I'm playing this kind of game, I don't want to do combat. I want to do trading. There's also the ability to repair. One of these, I was going to say, will be the draft, which says if something can go into basically rivers or not. So I believe the sloop having a 0 means it can. It can go in absolutely shallow water, and so it can go upstream, which, where would be a good example of that? That was certainly a big thing in Patrician. Oh, there's my ship too, just outside of Kaffa. Let's go and dock in Kaffa proper. Come on, advance. I just want to see what they trade. I'm distracting myself. So they produce wood, salt, and honey. Now that's interesting. I don't think a lot of places produce honey. One thing you can do is if you hold tab on your keyboard, it will show you all the goods that are produced there. Keep in mind, I cannot yet buy the bread or the silk, but you can see at a glance. So the other thing you can see is this little pop-up here. This says that they have a special demand for grain. They are out of grain. They will pay a premium for grain. So I could hold tab. I could look around the map on the places that I've discovered. Constantinople, Athens. Athens produces grain. So does Koroni. So what I could do is send a ship to Koroni in Athens, buy out as much grain there as possible, and then deliver it in Kaffa, hopefully before someone else supplies them the grain, and make a killing. Let's go back to Venice over here to talk about some of the other things that you can do. City Hall. You can build buildings. Now, we already have a warehouse. I'm not sure if we can buy a second one. No. But what you can do is you can expand your warehouse storage by adding storehouses. So you do only need the one warehouse at all. Cathedral. So it already has a cathedral. Only needs the one. Schools. The more schools you add, the more educated the citizens become. It increases the prosperity of the city. You do need 100% popularity, interestingly enough, before you can build schools. Large shipyards, I believe Venice will already have one. Yeah, so you can, mix up your base of operations. Hospital will help fight off the disease, but it also increases prosperity, which is damn handy. And so these were the city buildings, but then there's also the production buildings. You can only generally build things that the cities can already produce. And so these should be, these are the 5 goods that Venice is allowed to produce. And you can't mix that up. You can't change it. You can't suddenly start producing bread in Venice. Just because I guess if you could have every type of building in every city, it would sort of eliminate the idea of trade. Plus, historically, cities really were highly, highly specialized. I was going to say, glasswork, because I think that was I believe that is historically accurate. Venetian glass, right? Yeah, pretty sure. Anyway, but what you can do is you can invest yourself in this. And what will happen is if I create a fruit yard here, my fruit yards will be able to sell the goods they produce to the market. Now, they will only be selling it in Venice. Venice already produces fruit, so the price there is not very high. But what I'll actually do in practice is actually send the fruit directly into my warehouse. And then from the warehouses, they will just keep banking the fruit. And I can automate my warehouse process by hiring a manager or a steward, working with my steward, and actually instruct my steward whether he's allowed to buy and sell certain goods and for what price. And so I can say, all right, so normally fruit goes for 60-ish, right, when it's properly supplied. Well, whenever the fruit is at 60 or less, buy fruit. And then I can have my ships come by and just grab things at a warehouse. That way, it'll never get in a situation like this where I can only buy 45 tons of fruit before it goes into low supply. Well, I really want, 400 tons of fruit. I want as much fruit as possible. I want to stay in high supply. And I also want to keep a sort of a monopoly on fruit. And whenever it's at 60, I want to buy it. That way, anyone else who's trading in the city will always be forced to buy it at a higher rate, for example. So there's different things you can work like that with your actual production. The Senate is, whoops, I have the wrong ship selected, but that's okay. The Senate is where a lot of the political interaction happens. There's a Senate, a ruling council of 5 people that rule Venice. There's a Doge as well. I think Nicola Trone is currently Doge. Yes, no? Maybe I'm misreading the screen. Oh, no, that means he's got a mission. Anyway, each one of these people, if you want to get advanced to the next level in the sort of trade guild, these people have to vote for you. You have to choose advancement. There are certain criteria. For example, here I need 100 workers and or sailors before I can go up to the next level. I currently have 0, so I'm going to have to hire some sailors or workers. Workers are for your buildings, sailors are for your ships. If I complete all this, then I will be allowed to advance to the next level, assuming enough people vote for me. A lot of these people don't necessarily like me that much. There's a few different ways to suck up to them. One, if I keep sort of trading and doing good things in Venice in general, that will help. The other thing I can do is I can just straight up bribe them. That works. But Frank over here, he actually has a mission for me. I'm currently an overseas merchant, so he's addressing me by that title. My family has been told that something is going on somewhere on a coast between 2 cities. Please check and make certain that everything is in order. Unfortunately, I can only give you an approximate position. So he's going to give me some sort of position, some sort of map to follow and to search things out. Sometimes the missions will be to deliver goods. There's a variety of little quests that you can do, and that will improve your relations with this person specifically, and that will help you advance to the next level. There's also the possibility of being elected as the Doge, or Doge, I suppose, who is the ruler of Venice. You can become the actual ruler. Venice is not a monarchy. They're a merchant republic, and they do elect these Doges. A tavern here where you can hire some special people to discredit your opponents, which is kind of fun. What else? The city info actually has a few extra tabs. This is the normal trading screen as well, or if I had the proper ship selected, it's there, but I can still trade to my warehouse. But the overall city information, how many buildings, population, the occupancy rate. What's very important as well is the state of emergency. I was going to say is the prosperity. Oh, that's right. They have a disease. That's why. The prosperity is very important because it affects all kinds of different parts of the city. So you're trying to make as much money as possible, but you're also getting involved in building up these regions and really become an influential figure in the area. And I've always really liked that aspect of the game. I think that it's really fun. Again, it's not, this is not a high excitement game, but it's a cool one. You can borrow money from the bank if you need help getting started. You can also lend money out to people at a certain interest rate. And yeah, your history of the bank operations. And you have your own house, including your family tree. I'm not currently married, so one of the things I'm going to want to do at some point is get a wife, pop out some kids, and, progress through like a dynasty at that point. Also, you other people in your family can help you out in a few different ways. That was the house. We already did that. The harbor master. This is if you have other ships that are built but not yet part of a convoy. A convoy can be as simple as a single ship, but sometimes you'll have a convoy of multiple ships. Dramatically increases your cargo capacity, but also means you could take some ships that are just have large cargo capacity and pair them up with other ships that are really good at battle. That is a completely viable way of doing it. And then there's the cathedral. We can sit here and pray. That's weird. I thought it was... I swore this button worked differently before. Maybe I'm getting confused. But you do have your faith rating, and yeah, right now the Pope is not particularly happy with my faith. Oh, I can't donate. That's too bad. Yeah, I need the goods to donate. One thing I've always really liked is the Feeding and Giant Feast events. They've called them a few different things in some of the games, but basically, if you have this many goods kicking around in your warehouse, then you can complete this quest and gain some reputation. It's a great way to bribe the city. This gives you reputation and increases the prosperity of the city, which is awfully sexy. So there's a lot of little ways that you can manipulate the country. So let's see, where are my ships? Oh, this one I accidentally sent back. Let's send it to Constantinople and take a look at the city here. I believe I will have to buy a trading license here. Come on, Doc. There we are. We'll buy ourselves a trading license and see what we can do. Quite expensive here, but they have a lot of goods. And yeah, I do still have the ability, assuming I can get my reputation high enough, I should be able to influence the city in a few different ways. Expand businesses. City Hall. There we are. So my popularity needs to be 35% before I can get a license to build a warehouse in Constantinople. So ultimately, one of my goals would be to have warehouses in a lot of different areas. So right now, the only thing I can really do is trade with the city, is find out what goods they need and continuously supply them with those goods. Once my reputation gets high enough, I can get the license, build the city hall, or build my warehouse, but then continue to get licenses to start building businesses here. For example, I could start... especially later on when I get higher in rank, let's say silk. Oh, silk is not something that gets produced in most places in the region. Look, silk, no silk anywhere here. There's a little bit of silk over here. Maybe I want to build my own silk weaving factories in Constantinople. So I want to suck up to these guys as much as possible, develop that industry, and then I'd really be able to trade a lot over here. Let's take a moment to talk about how we can automate things. We've already... oops, wrong button. I just sort of touched on the idea of using my steward over here. There's also the production if I had any buildings. I can quickly wreck the buildings from over here, fruit yards. I can directly place the order here. Great, let's start building a fruit orchard and a salt factory. And I'm betting I can't do these. Well, yeah, I was going to say, I need to have a higher rank in Venice before I can build the higher end buildings. I was going to say, would it let me build it? Because I can't trade in this yet. And we'll build an oil mill. Just get it started. We're not actually going to interact with that. This whole interface is quite different from previous games. Because normally you would have to place the individual buildings in the city. And I'm totally okay with doing it this way. So this is the current stuff that's in stock for my businesses. And then, yeah, my steward. So I can tell them to buy goods. I can also tell them to sell goods. Now, one thing that you tend to do later on when you start automating things is when your ships arrive in Venice. This one here, the Hurricane, right? So right now when I'm doing my trading, come on, is I'm selling directly from my ship. I've got some pottery here. I will sell from my ship to the city. But what tends to happen later on when you're transferring enormous quantities of goods at once, more goods than the city can absorb in a single transaction, instead of selling it directly from your ship, what you will do is place it in your warehouse. And then that way, even if your ship is gone, you can check up in the city every couple of weeks and see what the demand is and then sell every time the demand goes up a little bit, or rather when the city becomes undersupplied. Well, instead of doing that manually all the time, you can go into your warehouse, you can go into your steward, and I can tell my steward that for, I don't remember what good I had in there, my pottery, is I can instruct my steward that he's allowed to sell things to the city. So he can sell as much pottery as they will possibly accept, as long as they're willing to pay 120% or 20% higher than the base value of the good, which I don't know what the base value of pottery is. It might be 60. That certainly was the case for the fruit. Off the top of my head, I don't know. Let's say it was 60. So it will only sell the pottery when it's when the city would pay me 72 gold or higher per ton. So it'll keep selling pottery up until it drops below that point. And that's a great way to not have to worry about micromanaging a lot of the things. And once you start getting a huge number of ships, you definitely want to avoid having to micromanage all that aspect. And that sort of automation there with the steward ties in very nicely with the automation of trade routes over here. So the way to build the trade routes has changed ever so slightly. But so here I'm going to plan a route. I'm going to say start in Venice, then go to Zara, then go to Ragusa, then go to Durazzo, and then you're going to loop around back to Venice. Great. Then we can go into the edit city screen, and we can tell the captain of the ship exactly what to do in all of those cities. There's two modes. There's the old manual mode over here, which is going to look similar to how we were interacting in the city. Here's you would set specific amounts of goods and specific prices and whether to buy or sell. And then there's just the captain mode, which frankly the game probably needs a lot because the other mode is a little complex and it's easy to mess up and not get it right. But we can say, listen, in Venice, when you arrive in Venice, you're going to unload all raw materials, and frankly, you can sell goods as well. Anything in short supply, anything that has less than 2 bars that you have on your ship, go ahead and sell. Now, again, it does note that having both unload raw materials and sell goods, it might not necessarily do exactly what you're thinking. The alternative is also just to say empty convoy, and that's pretty good. This option here is only available in Venice because that's the only place where I have the warehouse, and you can see very quickly what actions at a glance are allowed everywhere. So in Zara here, I can only sell goods. It's my only possible option. Is it really? I'm actually confused as to why some of these things aren't available, but let's move on anyway. But yeah, so what you might want to do is just empty the convoy directly into your warehouse, and oh, that's why. It's because it's only going to grab stuff. It's only going to grab stuff in your warehouses. So in Venice, it picks up stuff, and then it tries to sell it in the other cities. Right? So what you do is you control what you might want to load, and this works well when you've got your businesses, when you've got your warehouse, when you've got all that going on. And that's it. These trading routes are really good for that setup. You're producing your own goods and you're trying to get rid of them in an automated fashion. This is how you do it. So if we had our businesses set up in Venice to do that, if you really want to do good sort of manipulation, the captain's mode here is not really the ideal way of doing it. You either do it truly manually or you set up your own sort of manual rules like that, and that's totally cool too. Anyway, that is it for the glance at this game. I do recommend checking it out if you like these sort of economic simulations. It's not necessarily for everyone, but if you've ever played Patrician or Port Royal and you really enjoyed it, then I'm certain that you will like Rise of Venice. See you next time, folks. Bye-bye.